Happy Saturday, the day before the day. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You are here for another Hawk Blogger Mornings early on a Saturday morning with my pal Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter. We're here at the wee hours, man. 7 a.m. on a Saturday is not when most people are around, but I know this crew. They are wild. They're also not all West Coast like me. So this is kind of a throwback, man. When Hawk Blogger Mornings first started, it was a 7:15 a.m. show. We're kind of back to it today because I got to head out after the show and hit the airport and fly back your direction for this game tomorrow. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good, man. I can't believe it's a week since we were together last Saturday at Jimmy's. I can't believe how just quick time flies. It was just felt like I was in and out of there so fast. So it's crazy. It's been a week since me and you were hanging out last Saturday.
That was amazing. That was so fun doing the show live together. I would definitely do more of that. Met some folks. That was cool. So I also think it is just, after living through and doing shows through the desert of the off season, when, after the draft, after free agency, when all the teams are on vacation and you're just like, oh man, the amount of news that happens in an NFL week is just wild, man. It's like, it's jam packed. Every week feels like a month.
It's crazy. I hope my employer's not listening because it is hard to do my day job because I'm just all over all this news all day. And yeah, I don't know how you do it all day. It's just there's so much going on at all times. And now with all the video and the stuff that surfaces, there's been times where I'm like, maybe I'll delete Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it. And this week happens where I'm away and I missed a bunch of the Sunday games while we were out together, and it was just I can never delete this thing.
No, it is. It's a necessity, and at least for football. And man, let's go through some of the news. We'll get to the Seahawks stuff. We always do, but I think on this show we like to kind of just wander a little bit around the NFL. Let's start closer to home. Let's start NFC West. Christian McCaffrey. It's news sounds like he had, quote, the worst day so far with his Achilles calf, and that it's Achilles tendonitis, I think is what I've been reading, that they think they're going to put him on IR today is at least the report. And that would mean he'd miss this week's game and the next 3 at a minimum. And I was talking about this last night, that also puts at risk the chance that he'd come back for the Seahawks game, because the Seahawks game would be the next game after, would be the first game after he would be due to come off. But the Seahawks game's a Thursday night game. He wouldn't be able to practice till that Monday. I don't know, man. I guess running backs, it's possible, but what do you think? 49ers didn't look like they missed him that much on this Monday night game. What do you think of this news?
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was hoping that news would really impact a lot of what they did. But if you study the Shanahans, especially Kyle's dad, Mike, or Kyle in general, the way they can just use their scheme to just create for running backs. McCaffrey is their super weapon. They can do so much with him that makes their offense almost unstoppable. Unfortunately, it did impact the way it did against the Jets because they just went back to their traditional way of just creating angles for running backs. What's going on with McCaffrey, and what I've done some reading this morning, is apparently his pain and his Achilles got really bad over the last couple of days. And I was reading one of the Twitter doctors, and this one's pretty reliable. There's 100 million of them now. But they were saying that when your Achilles gets like that after the injury, or as it's worsening, apparently that's what it means is on the verge of blowing up. I remember it happened to Sherman when he blew his Achilles out, where he said he almost knew something was going to happen. I remember that year in I think it was 2016 or 2017, where his just popped in Arizona. And I think McCaffrey was trending in that direction. So they may say 4 weeks, but this is one of those things that could linger with them all year. So I think you were right in the assessment based on what I was reading from the doctor, that the Seattle game's probably a long shot at this point. And unfortunately, I think until they play a defense that can show they can hold up against the run, unfortunately, it might not matter as much as I would have hoped at first, because Shanahan is unfortunately the perfect coach to kind of be able to scheme around this.
Yeah, and I mean, some troll on Twitter was like, "Why are you cheering for him not to play against your team? That's cheap." And I'm like, "I'm not. I'm literally just speculating on when he's going to come back." And I don't think the 49ers are exactly like a pushover without Christian McCaffrey anyway. So, I'm fine if he's there, if he's not there. I think the question is just, this is a 49ers team that had remarkable injury health last year, remarkable injury luck last year. And McCaffrey was part of that. McCaffrey was a guy that you kind of wondered, can he play a full season? He missed a lot of time with Carolina for a number of years, and then all of a sudden was there for every snap for the 49ers. Already this year, he's going to end up missing at least the first 5 games of the season. He may miss the first 6. And who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens here, but I think they're not alone. We'll go around the league. There's injuries and usually injuries are obviously it's like death. Like they touch you on the shoulder and you don't know. It could be anybody, right? And it seems like the injuries in the league are touching some pretty prominent players. So, oh my gosh, before we get into that, Tony Bag of Donuts, which I just love, just gave away 20 Hawk Blogger memberships. That's amazing, Tony, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing in more amazing people into the community. Really, really appreciate it. Make sure if you're someone who gets one of these gifted memberships, think about paying it forward. So many people have done that where they get a free membership and then they give free memberships to other people. Kind of ensures that we keep the giving part of this community going. And by the way, it's something that I think is kind of a defining part of this group. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you for that. That's also a good reminder, if I haven't done it already, make sure you head over to ftnfantasy.com, use promo code HAWKS, get 15% off your subscription there. It's less than $8 a month to get all the data you can ever imagine, DVOA and otherwise. I'm a subscriber. And by the way, all this stuff is presented by them. So do them a solid, support them, support the show, and get all the data you could want. Plus, you can find out your fantasy sits and starts and any betting stuff that you're interested in. We can talk about that too. So, yeah, I mean, 49ers wise, let's stick there and then we'll go to some of the other injuries. I mean, we talked a lot about it. I was hoping that run defense was going to look worse. It looked better, man.
It did. It was really discouraging, and I want to see more. The Vikings will be a good one this week because the Jets' offensive line did not look very good, and they were not carrying any push in the run game. But yeah, even early in the game, the Jets have almost a totally new offensive line, but not a lot of good run blockers in that group. So I want to see more of a sample. But yeah, I was definitely discouraged. Malik Collins and Floyd, they all look pretty stout in the run game. Didn't see the kind of weakness I was hoping to see, but again, you look at the Jets, they got an older Tyron Smith. They got Joe Tippmann. They got, I can't remember who their right tackle is, Morgan Moses. I don't think any of them are run blockers. So I want to see them. And that's not an offense that scares people. Nathaniel Hackett's not like the guy scheming up run plays. Me and you were joking that we thought he was doing crossword puzzles on the sidelines while Rodgers was calling plays. So we'll see. I want to see more of a sample. They play the Rams next week, but they're pretty banged up. Imagine we're going to talk about that. They play the Vikings this week in Minnesota, who did have success moving the ball on them last year. So, yeah, we're going to learn a lot more. But, yeah, that was definitely discouraging to see how good they looked in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the 49ers schedule, it's a very easy open for them. They beat the Jets. That was their one game, and that was potentially going to be a challenge, and it was not. And I think partially thanks to the Jets. No thanks to the Jets. The Vikings, it's in Minnesota, but that should be a game that they handle pretty easily. The Rams in LA beat up. We'll see the Rams will get a little healthier next week when Alaric Jackson, their left tackle, comes back off the suspended list. Then they got the Patriots at home and then the Cardinals at home. I mean, Jeff, if they're not 5-0, then something's gone really wrong. They should absolutely be 5-0 by the time they play the Seahawks. And I don't know if the Seahawks, I hope the Seahawks will be the first real challenge for them. I after that, they play the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Bucks,
Okay.
and then the Seahawks again. So it gets a little bit more spicy at that point. But the first 5 games, if you're going to have guys injured, that's the time to do it. Let's talk about the Rams. What did you see from them? They're obviously dealing with a lot of injuries. What's your take on the LA boys?
Yeah, they had some really good injury luck in the early McVay era. They were hanging on by a thread, and Matt Stafford played an unbelievable game. Like they had no business being in that game with the Lions based on who they were trotting out. They were like their third string left tackle. 4 of their 5 linemen went down. I think Jonah Jackson, who's the new acquisition playing a new position, was the only one in his proper position. So Stafford was doing some like incredible things to keep them in that game. He was making throws like falling down backwards, and like I think most quarterbacks would have just got absolutely walloped in that game. And then, but then the injury report came out later, and there they got ravaged. Steve Avila's placed on IR. I can't remember. Right guard is banged up. He's going to play this week, it looks like. The left tackle, the other left tackle, Joe Nomu-Boom, who's covering for their suspended left tackle, he's out. And Puka Nacua revisited an injury, and he was placed on IR, and it's supposed to be longer than 4 weeks. So they were probably the biggest loser of week 1 on the injury front. They got really banged up. And then when the game went down the line, we saw the limitations of the Rams. They look great on offense, but defensively, if you saw that Lions drive in overtime, they just ran right at them and barely passed the ball. And they were running right at Braden Fisk, who we were concerned about his run defense. They looked weak there, and they looked like they didn't have great inside linebacker. They didn't have Aaron Donald, and Ernest Jones looked pretty good in Tennessee. So we saw some big issues with them in the trenches, although Jared Verse looked really, really good, and the stats, advanced stats added to that.
Yeah, I'm just checking out on FTN where the Rams run defense ranked DVOA wise after 1 week. Do you want to take a guess where the Rams run defense ranked from a DVOA perspective?
Like low 20s, 27, 28?
Try 31st.
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 So the eye test matched it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't looked that up yet. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, that's kind of what I was hoping the 49ers were going to look like, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
But that's the thing. I mean, the Rams, I thought Kobe Durant played a nice game in there. I thought Verse looked really good. They still have some. I can't remember if it was Kitchens had a hit that was flagged, but it was a pretty nice hit. I just am a little bit. Oh, we saw, who was it? We saw Tre'Davious White get burned, right, by Jameson Williams. So I'm wondering if that Rams defense is going to. I really am wondering if this is the year that we thought last year was going to be for the Rams. If that defense is just too young, not stable enough, not good enough to helps, balance out that offense, or at least be good enough to let that offense carry them. I don't know, man. It's almost the opposite of the 49ers, where if you look at the Rams schedule,
it's rough.
Even this week, dude. We'll talk about. I want to come back to this Rams Cardinals matchup, but they go into Arizona this week. Then they host the 49ers. We just talked about that. Then they go to the Bears, which, who knows, maybe that's not that hard. Then they host the Packers. Jordan Love, I assume, is going to be out for that game, but I don't know. They have Jordan Love is questionable for this week.
Yeah, I don't know if they're playing mind games or if he's trending well, but the way it's looking, he might be back for that game.
Yeah, so it is not inconceivable that the Rams have 1, maybe 2 wins in their first 5 games. It's not totally out of the question that they're 0-5 in their first 5 games. Like, it's not crazy. What do you think is going to happen with them versus the Cardinals this weekend?
I like the Rams in this game. I just don't believe Arizona at all because of how bad I think their defense is. But the Cardinals are favored, and the Cardinals the one thing they can do really well is move the ball. So if the Rams defense is as hampered as we think it is, then they're going to be able to score points. The one reason I do like the Rams is I think because of the offensive line injuries. I think a team with like a really good defensive line can give them a lot of trouble right now. If they pressure Stafford, they can kind of blow up that offense pretty easily. But I think you sent me this. I don't know if this was an FTN stat or who sent this out, but they had the lowest edge rusher pressure rate, I think, ever recorded.
Yes.
I think it was 3% or
Yes.
3.5%.
Yes.
And when everyone's like, I like the Cardinals, I remember I found that tweet from Mike Clay just going through their depth chart one by one by one. And I'm like, oh my God, LJ Collier is starting for them. And so I think at the end of the day, I just trust McVay over Jonathan Gannon, even with these limitations. I think it's going to be kind of a shootout game, but I think if the Cardinals had a little bit more on defense, they could really – I think I would like them a lot in that game, but I just don't trust that defense.
All right, Jeff. Where does the Cardinals defense rank in DVOA after 1 week? They were 32nd last year. Where are they this year?
31, I would guess.
Too high.
Too high. Worse than Carolina.
32nd again. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I thought Carolina gave up 50 points. Yeah.
They're in bad shape. They're 32nd against the pass, 15th against the rush. And yeah, it is a rough look. I want to actually check their PFF grades from last week from an edge rush group just to see.
I would be curious. And it's funny because they had this slew of draft picks. And they had more draft capital, I think, than anyone in the league. And I remember
for
after the draft,
2 years, it was crazy.
After the draft, every draft insider, like the Field Yates and Matt Miller, the Cardinals killed it because they just took all these guys that are high on their board. And I remember looking I don't think they killed it at all. And listen, Marvin Harrison's not going to be as bad as what he was. And I don't know if you saw some of the advanced numbers on him.
Ooh,
he had the slowest miles per hour of any running receiver in the league. He was 16 tapped out. And again, I think he's one of the best prospects we've seen coming into the league. So I think that will get figured out. But all these defensive guys they added, and now Chris Robinson is hurt. But all these players they added, I didn't see any of them flash. So I thought they wasted their draft opportunity, to be frank with you. The fact they were taking blocking tight ends, and their running back they drafted was third string, and I think one of the guys they had last year was over him. So Trey Benson was a high pick, just 1 week, but I think that emphasizes what me and you thought of their draft. I thought they missed pretty bad.
I did too. I mean, and if Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't a dude, then they really missed.
Yeah,
really, really, really missed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, personally, I still think that they're stuck with Kyler Murray. I think they needed the talent to be not only good enough to help them build, but it needed to be good enough to actually raise his level of play. And I just don't think he's one of those guys that can carry a team. So I'm looking at their PFF grades. They had 11 total pressures. Not a single player had more than 2 pressures. They had, oh my gosh, of the guys that rush the passer most often, Justin Jones, I don't even know who that is, dude.
I'm telling you, man, they look like an expansion team.
Dennis Gardeck, who's a fine rotational guy. He had 0 in 20 pass rush snaps, had 0 pressures. Dante Stills. Jeez Louise, man. Xavier Thomas.
And this is when they were up 17-0, I believe, or 17-3. Their offense their offense has a lot of explosive potential. And that's when it's easiest to rush the passer.
Well, and here's the other thing that I think is, lesser told. I love Budda Baker. I love his game. He's still 28. I think he's almost 29, but I think he's slowing down. I think injuries have really taken their toll on him, as has losing all these years. I don't think he's the same player he was. He had a 54 grade in this game. You talked about the new guys. Max Melton, one of their high draft picks, is a corner, 54 grade in this game. Garrett Williams, who I actually liked last year as a corner, he played reasonably well. But yikes, dude!
I'm telling you, man.
So, for what it's worth, FTN's betting model likes the Rams like you do. a slight edge, not enough for them to put money on, but they've got it as a 25-23 kind of game. Rams are still favored by a point. I'm curious if the Seahawks spread is moved for I don't know if they do a week ahead. I'm curious if they do. Probably not. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Other injuries like obviously the Tua stuff. Speaking of a week ahead, what's going on with the Dolphins? Teron Armstead. Did you hear what happened with him or what his latest is?
No, I haven't heard anything on Armstead. Everything was really the Tua stuff coming out, so I don't know if was there any update on that?
Let me take a quick look on that. I had not heard. Yeah, doesn't. I'm not seeing anything big coming out of that. But yeah, this makes for like a big game this week, right? For the Seahawks. I mean, we talked about the forever that this was going to be a time where the Seahawks were potentially going to be a team that comes in 2-0 and then has to face their first real test in the Dolphins. I'd argue this game this week might be the tougher test. Do you think that's crazy?
No, I think that's 100% right, especially now that Tua's out. I don't know how many people saw Skylar Thompson trying to operate that offense, but Miami can only really play one way. Miami they need to play through those two receivers. They can have some like explosive run games, but like if you put like a below like a quarterback who just can't play in that offense, they're not going to just sit there back and pound you in the run game. Everything they do is with speed. If they can't unlock that speed, New England's one of those teams that if you can run the ball and play defense, that can kind of travel anywhere. And obviously Miami's talent level is definitely higher than New England's. But yeah, I think the New England game, 10 a.m. game on the road, home opener for a team that looked pretty good on defense and looked pretty physical in the run game with a big running back that's hard to tackle. Yeah, I'm far more concerned about this game than the Miami game. If you would have told me that a week ago or a month ago, I would have thought I was a crazy person. But at first, this looked like the easiest game on the schedule. And I got to say, I was impressed with what I saw from New England.
Yeah. What's your, after a few days time, where are you feeling like this game is going to be decided? How's this game going to look?
I think what Seattle needs to do is Seattle needs to be able to score early. And a lot of that will come down to how their offensive line looks. Is it the offensive line from the second half or the offensive line from the first half? If Seattle can score early, and they have way better offensive personnel than New England, this is where Seattle has a huge edge in this game. If Seattle can go up 7-10 points in this game, New England can't really play from behind. They're not a drop back passing team. They have very little skill position, and their pass protection is the worst in the league, worse than Seattle last week. So if that happens, I think the Seahawks could breeze in this game. If they don't score early, and if the offensive line looks a little like last week, and they get into a pound it out, grind the game with the run game, I think it's a coin flip game at that point, and I think it could go either way. So I hope that doesn't happen. I think Seattle has the offensive personnel and the defensive personnel. They should be able to win this game. But if you get into one of those grinded out, try to play the same kind of game where you have to kind of punch them like a boxing match, it might be a really sweated out game for the Seahawks, and that would not be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way. I saw it was reported in Brady Henderson's article from ESPN.com that the Seahawks pressure rate allowed in the second half was in the 20s, like 22, 23% after being like, much higher in the first half. And if you're in the 20s, then you can absolutely function as an offense and maybe even thrive for the Seahawks. I don't know if Pro Football Reference lets me get to that stuff or not, but I am curious about it because the reality is it was better in the second half. How much of that was because of the run game? I think Gino talked about it this week that he could feel that it was a difference in the pass rushers being able to attack them after they're having to deal with the run as well. So trying to see if there's a way I can find this, but Also kind of interesting this week, Brady Henderson talked about on, I think it was 710 when he was subbing in one day, that he's heard that there might be a bigger gap than people realize between Christian Haynes and Anthony Bradford in the eyes of the team. And what do you take? What's your take on that?
I heard that, and I was pretty taken back by it. I don't think that's a great sign for Haynes, because I think me and you are not certainly high on Bradford, and we see some pretty big limitations as a pass protector. And so either Haynes is just not flashing on either thing. He's not physically strong enough, and maybe what Bradford can bring in the running game just outweighs anything Haynes can really bring to the table. Because when I watched Haynes in the preseason, he looked kind of what was advertised. He looked really stable. He didn't have like crazy upside or anything, which is what I thought of him. But he looked like a guy who just knew how to play the run game, knew how to pass protect, and he was solid. But hearing that the coaches see like a pretty sizable gap, and this is someone who I think is a pretty limited player in Bradford, that's pretty alarming, especially when Dominic Pooney, who was picked a few picks after, was now like looked fantastic for the 49ers. So not a great situation there, and pretty alarming, because a lot of us were like, okay, maybe Haynes is the one who can kind of stabilize this guard situation. And I was one of those people last week being like, what does this guy need to do to pass Laken Tomlinson or pass? And they played him a little bit of left guard. So hearing he's not even close to Bradford, ooh, that's not great for just the long-term state of this line, and just a potential wasted opportunity for the Seahawks where they need guards really badly.
Okay, I think I found this. Let's see if I've got this right. So at least NFL has this as the Seahawks having a 35.7 pressure rate overall for the game. If I go by quarter, first quarter it was 50%. Yikes. Second quarter, it was 20%. Third quarter, 28%. Fourth quarter, 33%. So at least by these numbers, it was the first quarter where things were really troublesome. And then 3/4 of the way, it was better. Also interesting to see that the Seahawks were blitzed 66% of the time in the fourth quarter. And so in the first quarter, it was 60%, second quarter, 0%, third quarter, 43%. I don't know that the Patriots, I'm going to go look at the Patriots, but what do you think about that? The pressure rate really did seem to be, at least by this number, a 1/4 issue. Does that, can you like get your emotions away enough to be able to like believe that that's possible?
I do, but I wonder about the second quarter. Like, how much did they have the ball in the second quarter? Because there was the safeties. They barely ran any plays. There was the drop. There was the fumble, I think, was in the second quarter. So I do wonder how representative that was, because it just felt like they barely ran any plays that quarter. It just felt like they were kind of hanging on for dear life on defense. So sure, I'm sure it got better, but it almost felt like there was a couple drives that were just one play, it was over. So I don't know if there was the sequence of plays to allow that, but at least from quarter 3 and quarter 4, it felt better. And it started with the run game and what they did and the motions that Grubb did. And I'm hoping that they've learned a lot of, or how they can negate this. And yeah, Vance Joseph is a blitz heavy coordinator, and I don't think the Patriots are going to attack them like that. So,
well, I mean, I asked Ryan Grubb this week, like, were you surprised at all by the pressure you're giving up? And he's like, not at all. And I'm like, I don't know. That's that answer didn't totally ring true with me. Like, the way he called the game certainly seemed to think that he was going to have more time for his quarterback. And I don't know. You're right, though, that the Patriots are different. I mean, their blitz rate first quarter against the Bengals, goose egg, 0%. Yeah. Fourth quarter, 0%. They got up to 33% in the second quarter, but this is just not a blitz team. So what I've read is that read and researched is that the Patriots run a lot of man. Yeah. And Geno's had a fair amount of success against man defense. And if they're also going to run man, Gino just ran the longest touchdown run he's had for a while, and the longest touchdown run of a guy his age, for a long, long time. It's going to open up him potentially gaining yards on the ground with his feet, with those guys having their back to him.
Yeah, and this is a game where like you couldn't have been more encouraged by the defense in the last game. Offensively, coming out of that game being like you're obviously nervous about this, what the passing game looked like because of the pass protection, how it looked a lot. It was a struggle to do anything in the passing game other than a couple things Tyler Lockett. And this is a game where you really want to see, for you to have like full confidence in the Seahawks team, you want to see them tap into that passing game. And you want to see them with their receiving talent and what Gino can do with competent pass protection. You want to see them take that level because you've combined the defense to what they can do in the run game and then at that passing game. That's where like your expectations can get really excited for this team. And this is a game where if the line can hold up and the script is there, they should be able to have some success in the passing game because they're a big man team. Gino's had success. And yeah, New England does have 3 good corners, but this is a game we should see more from Lockett. Maybe hopefully see them ability to use Smith and Jigba at all because he was 2 catches on that one drive and that was it. DK is going to have a tough assignment here. He's going up against one of the better corners in the league for the 2nd straight week. But again, this is a game Gino, assuming the offensive line isn't a disaster, and I think we got Stone Forsythe at right tackle. I don't know if it's Jarrell or McLennan Curtis is going to get activated today.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he's a game day active guy. But the offensive line, the good thing is New England doesn't have a ton of edge guys that scare you. Like Keon White looked pretty good last game. He's moving all over the line. He's a really good player, but they're missing Christian Barmore. They don't have a ton of edge guys that like really can fly off the edge or overpower you. They're more of the run defending types. But yeah, so much of this, if the offensive line just do their job or just be competent, this is a game that Gino should look really solid. And I think that's where the Seahawks could run away if they allow him to do that.
I've got a number here that kind of speaks to that I'm surprised about. I hadn't seen this. I'm going to share it in a second. Before I do, I got to catch up here. Chris Clark gifted 5 Hawk Blogger memberships, man. Really, really appreciate it, Chris. Thank you for your generosity. And I hope, if you don't know, you got to click the join button to turn on receiving gifts. So you could potentially go click join, click the little 3 dots, and make sure gifting is enabled for your account. You might get a free membership just like that. There's a lot of people that have done that and didn't even realize they could have a free membership. So make sure you've turned it on. And if you get a free membership, think about paying it forward like so many people have. Preston Morrow gives a super chat, super thanks here. Appreciate you, Preston. Thank you for that. And as I'm sitting here about to give you another great stat, let me remind folks, go over to ftnfantasy.com, use promo code HAWKS, get 15% off your subscription to FTN, get you Stats Hub, gets you all the data you can imagine, as well as the Discord channel where you can talk to other people about if you want to make a bet, if you want to start or sit fantasy people, you want to get some information. That's the place to be. And it's all for like less than $8 a month. I am a subscriber. Highly recommend you do it as well. Use promo code HAWKS, get that 15% off. All right, Jeff, I can't believe this. And again, pressure rate is going to fluctuate between different stat systems because pressures are subjective, right?
Yeah.
But looking at the NFL's data here, which team in the NFL has the lowest pressure rate? Now, this isn't blitz rate. This is literally recording a pressure. This could be a pressure, a sack, a hit. Defined by the NFL, it says the percentage of dropbacks where at least one pass rusher affects the quarterback before the pass is thrown, resulting in a hurry, hit, or sack. Okay. Where do the Patriots rank in that?
I'd guess somewhere in like the 30s. 30 would be my guess.
Really? I mean, with Keon White, I would not have guessed that. Like, he had 3 sacks, 2.5 sacks, and I thought that they would have been ranked high. They're dead last, man.
They're under
32nd.
Arizona?
Under like there's 3 teams under Arizona.
Well, I think you tweeted at that like White had like 2 or 3 really good rushes, and then the rest he was like, I think that was you that went through all his snaps. And
I mean,
that's where I would have guessed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a 17.1% pressure rate. The Jags were 31st at 17.5. Panthers were 19.2, Cardinals were 20. I can show you. I think I can even do this. Let's see. We're going to take a chance here that this doesn't come into some copyright thing, but I'm going to show you the Keon White sacks. All right. This is how quickly I can do this, which is freaking amazing. I'm going to look up Keon White. And I mean, I have to admit, like, I was like, geez, this guy looks like he could be a total game wrecker for the Seahawks, or against the Seahawks. And
still might.
Yeah, well, he still might. I'm just saying, but like when I looked at his actual film, I was like, all right. So let me pull it up. I got to get to week 2. What do you think of this Patriots defense while I pull this up?
They're really solid. They're really solid. Their strength is the secondary for sure. And they have 3 good corners. Their safeties are really good. They're really good against the run. Their back 7 is probably the strength of their team. They're really well coached, it seems like, and it seems like they've added some more schematically. So I heard like Mina in the offseason and like the people she has in her pod, and they're always like, oh, New England's like going to be a really fun defense this year. And I'm like, Mina, like, come on. Like, these guys suck. And then they go out week 1 and everything she kind of hit on in some of these shows was true. Like, I forgot how good Christian Gonzalez was before he got injured last year. And they just seem better coached, which is weird. Like, you have Pete Carroll on one hand and you have Bill Belichick on the other hand, like 2 of the greatest defensive coaches of all time. And through 1 week, both teams look better coached defensively than they were last year and more creative and better at using their personnel. And it's like, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but Gerard Mayo in his first game looked pretty good.
All right, so let's take a look here. And this is Keon White right here. So 290-pound guy standing up. And you see he's got a tight end right here. You got the right tackle right here, right? So let me play this for you. I mean, this is a nice rush. He like that's a great move. Just absolutely loses the right tackle. So that's a strip sack. Joe Burrow gets the ball back. That's a legit like quality rep for that guy. This is the next one, and this is the thing to pay attention to. He's now standing up right in like the A gap, right? Like he's right over the center, so they can move him around. So he was out here, and now he's in here, and so here you see a lot of guys standing. You got kind of a jokerish defense, and this, he's totally owned. But then Burrow runs into him.
Yeah.
Like, that's not exactly like, oh, shoot, how are we going to block this guy? Like, he was blocked. He just was there. It was like a Jaron Reed sack.
I was going to say, that's the Jaron Reed cleanup sack.
So there was another one. I'm going to see if I can find it. But in any event, none of them, they weren't like that. Okay, here's I think the one that I didn't show you yet. This is the split sack. So, I think he is here. Let's see. This is where he's I think he's down now in this one. Oh wait, I think this is him right here.
Yeah,
okay.
That looks.
So that's a good pressure.
That's a good rush, yeah.
That's a good rush. You see him coming in, pushed him back. He's, he had it within those 3 moves. I think that was fine. Like nothing to me there that was like, oh crap, this guy is a game wrecker. I mean, am I being too Seahawks centric on that?
No, I think he got a little more hype because of the sack numbers than he probably looked there. But seeing that last one where he just kind of sniped through the whole offensive line on the right side, and picturing him going up against Anthony Bradford and Stone Forsythe, that's going to scare me no matter who's lining up there. So Stone Forsythe's issue is he's so tall, he has trouble getting leverage at pad level, and people can just kind of either push right through him or and he's a guy who's really low to the ground and uses a lot of core strength. So I'm guessing they're going to line him up a lot over there and then a lot over the guards because Cross and Williams are the 2 strength of this offensive line. So yeah, he didn't flash as much as I would have guessed based on the hype, but yeah, man, any guy against our team I'm going to be nervous with this right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he went up against Trent Brown, he's decent
Yeah.
right tackle for the Bengals. Did not have a good day, and Alex Kappa, the right guard, and Alex Kappa, he's been a pretty mediocre player through his career. So, yeah, I'm not saying like no worries, but I was surprised to see that they were last in the NFL in pressure rate. And if that's the case, I guess I've been approaching this as, man, this is maybe not a worst case scenario, but a pretty bad matchup, and that this is a really good defense and the Seahawks offense struggled. If they really are a Keon White team, and Keon White to me he's maybe like I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to like undersell him, but I didn't see a ton from him. He literally, those were three pressures. Those are the only three pressures he had the entire game, had nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to account for that guy. And when I asked Ryan Grubb about Keon White, he's like, well, everybody has weaknesses. That was an interesting answer. Like, he seemed to have an idea of how they wanted to block him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Without Christian Barmore, they're just far less fearsome across the line, and they don't have like the typical speed edge rusher. They have some solid players, like the big defensive tackle they have in the middle is just a very good run defender. Like, but they don't have those edge rushers. Like they had Matthew Judon, and they traded him away, and that was kind of the sign. It's like, okay, they're rebuilding this thing. They're going to try to play solid defense and really spend on developing Drake May, but without Judon and without Barmore, who were two of their better edge pressure creators last year, they just don't have the personnel, which is why they have the low win total and why they were expected to get run out of the block last week. And yeah, they're really good in the secondary, but yeah, maybe that plays a little okay. Maybe they can hold up like they did in that Detroit game last year, but it would be nice to have George Fant in this game, man.
Yeah, I'm a little bit curious about Marcus Jones. I mean, this is a guy who had a good first game against the Bengals, or at least he had a good first grade. But did you see who the Bengals were running out there at receiver?
I did. They are limited. So T. Higgins was out, and Tyler Boyd is gone. And so it's who? Did Jermaine Burton play, or was it Andre?
He barely played. He got like a snap. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Their receiver group, Andre.
I think it's Yoshivas.
Chase played, but I don't know if you saw some of that. He looked very disinterested and kind of like not Jamar Chase-ish. Trenton Irwin was their slot receiver. I'm telling you, Charlie Jones got some snap. You may not see a less impressive receiver crew than that the rest of the year. And the way PFF grades, it's really like if you're targeted, your coverage grade is affected, positively or negatively. So here's the reason I'm bringing it up. I think Marcus Jones may be a little bit of fool's gold.
Yeah.
And I think this could be a JSN game. I think he might be the focus point of what they try to do in this game.
I agree. And the more I study this game, I thought JSN is the one area that they can really take advantage. And they're like a Mike Gesicki drop or a fumble away from like probably winning that game pretty. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, New England's exactly who we thought they were. But yeah, that's where Seattle, and again, it comes down to being able to block so they can let him run his routes. But like they should be able to get JSN if the offensive line is not performing on slants and on quick passes and on things where they can use his strength. So they don't need like the long developing seam routes. Like get him into slants, use them. Like when the Rams offensive line went bad last week, they were able to use Cooper Kupp on a lot of quick stuff. And I always hear like you can't use slot receivers when your offensive line is down. That's what Griff's been telling me. But the Rams literally were, as soon as their offensive line went down, they shifted heavy towards their slot receiver. So I think they should be able to take advantage of that corner. And JSN, and this is why the Seahawks, a lot of people like the Seahawks personnel so much, is they just have three receivers that most people just can't cover. And like everyone forgot about Tyler Lockett, and on 50% of snaps, he was their best weapon last week, other than Kenny Walker. And I think this is a game that really plays into why we have JSN and why we think he should be able to unlock part of their offense.
The other matchup here that I think will be really fascinating to watch is Christian Gonzalez and DK Metcalf, because there's a whole group of people that are like, oh well, man, this is another tough matchup for DK Metcalf, and I think that's true to some extent. I'll tell you, listening to DK and his body language talk about Christian Gonzalez, I mean, he's like, the guy's played 5 games. Let's chill out a little bit, and he seems like a good physical corner, but we'll see. If they're gonna man up DK on a guy,
Yeah.
Gino's gonna go to him. Whether it's a good choice or a bad choice, Gino's gonna go to him. If he sees 1-on-1 for DK Metcalf without safety help over the top, DK is gonna get targeted. And this is a big game in that way for DK, Jeff. Like, yes, Christian and Gonzalez highly thought of, but DK's supposed to be higher. Right. And so I guess my point is, I don't think that he made some of the catches that I would have expected him to make in that first game. This could be the game where he kind of wakes everybody up and says, no, this is who I am. If they get their passing game going, which I have not assumed was going to happen because of the pass protection, but if they get their passing game going, that's like, to me, the biggest indicator that this will be a more comfortable victory than I would have expected.
Yeah, 100%. That's been my read since I studied this game. And yeah, it was interesting. I didn't hear DK speak this week, so really interesting to hear that. And yeah, there was a couple of catches that were one-on-one plays that, like, guys who are supposed to level up to his level should be making some of those catches. The thing that he's apparently done well in training camp is catch balls in the air, like win these one-on-one jump ball situations. And Gino was a little skittish with some of the throws they threw to him in one-on-one, but there was the one down the field on a 3rd down where they just took a shot, and that's against Patrick Surtain, a more accomplished corner than Christian Gonzalez. And DK's in position to win, and all of a sudden the ball comes down and Surtain rips it out, and everyone's like, oh, look at that play. It was like, no, DK should have caught that ball in the air. So Gino is going to go after these guys. When he sees one-on-one, especially in man, he's going to go. He's going to trust his guy, and we need to see DK kind of make these kind of catches, and I think he's going to. And so I thought Gino also was a little skittish. Like, there was that 2-point conversion where he just, like, off his back foot, like, guns the ball to DK in one-on-one. He has no chance to make a play on it. But if Gino's a little calmer in the pocket, and I understand why he wasn't last week, I think he can really attack these guys. And I think this is a game where we can see a really solid, just really good Gino game, assuming that he's not under pressure for 40% of his drop back. Well,
this is one of our trollier members, not member, but listeners. Nugash says DK isn't an elite wide receiver. We can't expect him to be one. I put this up there because I just want people to keep that same energy. Keep that same energy. I understand why you feel that way. I think that's been true up until this year. I'm not wavering off of my belief that this is going to be a breakout year for him. Now, if the offensive line is going to be a disaster, then not realistically. I think DK's ceiling is more affected by the play of the Seahawks offensive line than the other players. But just keep that energy because I think we might be pretty soon talking about him differently. And I do also think some of the plays that I've seen from the Seahawks team, some of the quick game, I think that has potential to be a lot more utilized against a heavy man team like the Patriots. And that could also help here as well. So this is a sneaky, like, this is almost like a good testing ground game for the Seahawks passing game. Okay, not the best pass rush, but some solid pass rushers, Uche and White. Really pretty solid secondary, plays a lot of man. Like, let's see, man. Like, let's see how this crew does. Switching to the other side, let's take this super chat from Detail. He says, Brian, since the Patriots will likely focus on the run game on offense, could Byron Murphy see more snaps and have a bigger impact in this game? What do you think, Jeff?
I think this is going to be a big Jonathan Hankins game. I think Aiden Dirty alluded to that. But if you looked at the film of last week, I think where Murphy really flashed was the run game. So some of the plays Murphy made if you watch like the film of what he was doing in the run game, and I can see this at all from my seat, he looked fantastic. Some of the stuff he was doing as a rookie, and I know like Mike Renner was tweeting that out. So yeah, I think this will be a game they'll use him a little bit more. I think this is going to be. I think he might be limited though because of just Jonathan Hankins. It's going to be used a lot in this game. Like that base of Hankins, Reed, and Leonard Williams is just ideal for this game. But if they get up big and they start going into like the pass rushing situations, I think you're going to see a lot of Murphy, and I think this is a game he could do really well. They have a rookie guard at right guard and who's questionable to play, but I believe he's going to play, and they have an injured left guard. So this is a game we could see a lot for Murphy, and he was better than I realized last week. Didn't flash as much as a pass rusher, but if this gets into like a heavy run game, there's a ton of room out there for snaps. This is a game he could throw some guys around. And yeah, so I think we'll see more Hankins snaps than last week, though. So I think, unfortunately, the guy who probably loses there is Murphy.
Curious. Like I'm pulling up Byron Murphy's film right now. Curious if there's any way that I can figure out how to get some of his good. I think there's like a run stuff maybe. Yeah, let's see if this one. I'm gonna share my screen. Let's just see this together because
there's a couple plays where he just throws back these offensive line.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this. We'll see if this ends up being worth even putting on the screen, but I'm gonna do it anyway. All right. So here is. I think Byron Murphy's right here. All right. So let's see what he does on this play.
No, just gets flushed out.
Well, actually, like, honestly, he's taken on a double team and they don't move him at all. He actually closes the pocket, occupies those blockers, which makes Jerome Baker here free. Like, this guard is supposed to be out on Baker, and Murphy is occupying both of those guys, forcing
Leonard
that back
Williams.
in. Yeah, Leonard Williams, watching him here.
What an animal.
Just destroying that play. That's amazing.
Let's find a couple more.
I don't know if I can, man.
We don't want you getting copyrighted.
Well, no, I don't know if it's a copyright. I figuring out which plays Byron Murphy jumped out on will take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JP Acosta was tweeting out, was like, holy crap, this guy has insane strength as a rookie. Like, they're like, Byron Murphy is a rookie. And there's a clip of him throwing a double team over and getting under the block and tackling a guy. And it was like, holy crap. And I didn't see, I don't even know if people saw this on the TV copy, but the way he handled double teams as a first game ever, like, it's a team with pretty good guards.
Yeah.
It's damn impressive. And he didn't even flash it as a pass rusher.
Yeah, so I mean, I admit my hopes were a little higher for him to. I didn't want it to be a game where you had to go to the film to see, for sure, to make the case.
The Jordan Brooks game.
But yeah, this is a game. The offensive line for the Patriots is, I think, in similar shape to the Seahawks. Like, their left tackle is in bad shape, and their left guard is out. The right guard is not good. I think, this is a game where the Seahawks defensive line, I feel like could jump out and really take over this. I think as far as like surrendering pressure, they were one of the worst, last week. So in fact, the Bengals had the number one pressure rate, 48.3%. So by the way, the Broncos, wait, is this? Yeah, this is the Broncos are pretty low down here.
Where were the Seahawks?
You want to guess?
12, 13?
Yeah, it's a good guess, dude. They were 11th on this list. I've seen them higher in other lists. The Broncos were 14th.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'm really curious. I want to see some legit hits. I want to see Devin Witherspoon get home on some of his pressures. I want to see, like, let's hope the Tyrell Dodson, Jerome Baker play. How do you feel about the injury report for the Seahawks?
It seems like they're going to play the way McDonald was talking. But this would be an awful game to have linebacker injuries because of just the running and tackling of Ramondre Stevenson. So if it's like Tyrese Knight and Drake Thomas, that would make me really nervous. If it was a passing game, you could kind of scheme around that with more safeties. But this is a game where you need your linebackers to tackle. So obviously Tyrese Knight, that's what he's known for. If he was playing like a Kyle Shanahan, I'd be terrified if he was coming in and he's playing coverage. But I want Jerome Baker in this game. This is what he's there for. He's stable. He knows what he's doing. Tyrell Dodson looked great as a run defender last week. So I get the feeling they're going to play. The Ken Walker thing sucks because he looked just unbelievable last week. There's a case he was one of the best player on the field. And when they got the run game going, what he could do. And then at the end of the game, I wasn't on my phone. I didn't know he was out of the game with an injury. I was furious that Charbonnet was like getting that swing pass on 3rd and 2. And Charbonnet's a guy I really like, but he didn't have nearly the same level of juice. But I wanted to get back to just like the grind it out, run the ball up the middle. Like this should be a Charbonnet game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I need to see it. I need to see it because Walker looked like best running back in the league level, and that's what Kenny Polamalu was talking about with this guy. And he's done it with Dalvin Cook and some of these other guys. Watching Walker, this guy looked like the best running back in the league.
Yeah, it's a bummer with his injury. I'm glad they're taking it cautiously.
Yeah.
But oblique, ab injuries for that position can be tough. And so this is not only just big for Charbonnet for this week. You just don't know. Like Kenneth Walker has missed a couple weeks last year with an oblique injury. Once someone has something, you just have to know it can recur. So they just need to know that they can function, and it's not just for Zach to be able to show himself, but the rest of the team to feel like, no, we're a badass offense regardless. And I don't think they have that confidence yet. So it's funny because Charbonnet, I feel like, has played his best as a second fiddle guy that's come in and had some, I think, really good plays. But when he got his chance to start last year, it wasn't that good, man. He looked slow and unimpressive, and I don't think that's who he is. I really don't. But he's got to prove that, and so this is a weekend to do it. Before we kind of wrap here, Jeff, so my first road game covering the team, I hear that the New England press box is crap. So hopefully I should be able to depend on TVs in there at least, right? Like I'll be able to see the...
Yeah, it's a little older, that stadium. So it's not as modern as some of the other press boxes.
Yeah, it's like end zone view, which is like my least favorite football view. But any tips for you as traveling media for the times you were covering sports?
Do not get overwhelmed by the food. NFL games, I covered all these different sports. NFL games are different. They put out so much food for football games. And Ross Tucker, if you ever follow Ross Tucker, always tweets out like the spread. Like for a couple times I covered the NFL games live. It is hard not to just want to eat everything. And so they put out food before the game, they put out food at halftime, and they put out food after the game. And you need energy to get through these games, have your energy up. Anything else, just try to do what you can to see as much as you can. Some people bring binoculars. I don't know if you want to be one of those guys, but I don't know their view as well. But try to do everything you can to just take it in, enjoy it, and don't get overwhelmed.
I hear you, dude. Well, I think we'll wrap there, man. Where are you going to be watching this game?
I'll be in my man cave. There's 10 games out 10 a.m. tomorrow, Seattle time. Only 3 at 1. Brutal scheduling. So
I lied. I do want to ask you one other question. What do the games have your attention? Like, I haven't even looked at like what the top games are for this week.
The night game is interesting for me. Shane Waldron fell on his face last week, and now he's in a nationally televised game on the road against the Texans, who are probably one of the more fun teams in the league. So I'm really interested in that game. And unfortunately for Seahawks fans, Darrell Taylor looked pretty good for the Bears last week. They got a really good performance out of him. So I'm interested to see how that goes. The Niners play the Vikings at 10 a.m. I want to see if someone can kind of give them more pressure. Sam Darnold looked really good this week. So now that they're playing like an actual opponent and not the Giants, I would like to see how that game looks. And obviously the Niners are a big one. What are the other games? I think
Falcons Eagles is Monday night. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously the Rams Cardinals.
Rams Cardinals. It's not a great set of like two good teams going up. Like Chiefs Bengals was supposed to be the highlight of the week game, but the Bengals look like fraudulent right now, and Chase is kind of. So it's kind of like a lot of like mid teams going up against each other. It's like a Giants Commanders game. I don't care about Cowboys Saints. I don't really care about Ravens Raiders. Don't really care about that one. So it's a lot of like mid bowl kind of games. So
yeah,
I'm more focusing on like, okay, let's watch the division. Let's watch the Lions, like the Lions-Bucks game. Like the Bucks don't interest me that much, but I want to see the Lions look. The Lions struggled a lot more on offense. Ben Johnson has been taking some heat for calling a pretty crappy game last week until overtime. So, the Packers are playing Malik Willis tomorrow. So, and now like Russ isn't even playing Denver, so that game doesn't really interest me at all.
That would have been so much fun.
I know, and like. So I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty weak schedule. Bills Dolphins was like the game of the week I was like kind of jacked for, and it was an awful game. So Seahawks Patriots are going to be getting most of my attention when I'm usually flipping around and there's 10 games on. So yeah, kind of a weak set tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Well, one last thank you to FTN who sponsors the show. Use promo code HAWK. Go over to ftnfantasy.com. Get 15% off. Less than $8 a month gets you DVOA, gets you Stats Hub, gets you all the data you can imagine. I'm a subscriber. You should be too. Thank you to FTN for sponsoring the show. And thanks to everybody who's joined over there at FTN. And hopefully you guys are enjoying access to all of that. I am going to grab some food. I'm going to pack my bags, and hopefully I've remembered how to travel. Like I haven't traveled for a while. So I'm going to see if all my equipment gets through TSA or if they stop me at the gate. We'll find out. And I'll have so much time on the flight. I will probably be writing an article. Maybe I'll watch a movie, but I'll probably just end up writing an article. And so keep an eye out on hawkblogger.com. And tomorrow, I don't know yet what I'm going to do for pregame in terms of my HB Mornings show. So make sure you keep an eye out, click subscribe, click the bell to get notified. I'll let you know as soon as I know. And then I will let me know. Do people want me to create a chat party? I can participate. I just won't be able to do play-by-play in there. But if people want me to do that, I can do it again. So hit me up. Let me know if you want that, and I can create that. I'll probably do it either way. And I might leave it open since I'll be able to be in there. So we won't necessarily have to have a members only. We can make it members only if people want. Let me know on that as well. I'll put something in the community tab on YouTube and let people vote on it. So I'll let people decide what we're going to do that way. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you to Jeff Simmons, at Real Jeff Simmons. Make sure you give him a follow. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been episode 174 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, y'all.